Welcome into a new episode of the Patriots Hub Podcast from the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. I'm Alex Barth, joined today by Andrew Callahan of the Boston Herald. I actually spoke with Andrew at the start of the week on his podcast, Pat's Interference. So we're going to kind of wrap things up here, put the bow on it, a little home and home as Andrew comes on to wrap up the week. A busy week for the New England Patriots, a lot of news, a lot of rumors. Just going to kind of go through all of it and unpack what we've learned, because we've learned a lot, and I felt like coming into this, every offseason you have unknowns as you try to project what's ahead. This offseason, between changes with the team, just the nature of the players available in free agency and the draft, there were more unknowns than usual. I feel like we got a good amount of answers this week.
Yeah, I think so, and some of it is still reading between the lines. Like, it's notable to me, you go all the way back to Tuesday when Mike Vrabel speaking, and it's the who has final say over the roster. And he's like, well, conversations continue, and I'm confident my impact. Okay, Eliot Wolf says, yeah, it's me. So there is some, I think, gray area there. But when you understand how they're operating, you talk to some people around the league, some people who have met with them this week, it's clear this is Mike Vrabel's team, his vision. And so Eliot is working to fill that, to kind of serve that. And it's interesting, too, because you and I have been studying the same prototypes for all these positions for draft prospects for years. Throw them out the window, baby. This is a new defense. This is going to be, Josh McDaniels' offense, but a new front office structure, what they want, who they want to be. And we haven't said that about the New England Patriots 2.5 decades.
Yeah. So you think defensively it's new, but offense it's going to be, I guess you throw out what we were doing last year, because we made all the adjustments last year looking at the Packers way guys, right? You think we're now going back to those more prototype Patriots players on offense?
Yeah, it'll depend. I mean, Josh McDaniels will have some input, and Eliot Wolf's job is to identify talent, and the way they use their scouting system is not as much scheme fit as we were accustomed to under Bill Belichick. It's just who's good, which I think is the proper way to go about their business. Now, you will need to have clearly defined roles, and I think a guy who's going to improve, and people around the league also expect this, is Pop Douglas. He's a better fit for Josh McDaniels' offense than you have with Alex Van Pelt. So, there's a middle ground to be had here. But if Eliot Wolf doesn't like a player, I have a hard time imagining they'll draft him for that offense. Yeah. But, it's not Josh McDaniels running the show as Mike Vrabel is.
So you mentioned it's about, who's good, right? Who out there, who's good? Yeah. It's kind of a tough question this offseason with this free agency class, which it seems like is shrinking every day. The draft, everybody's heard at this point, it's a weaker draft class. Let's start with free agency. Ronnie Stanley, there's a lot of reporting that the Patriots, he's the guy they want. It makes sense. They need a left tackle. He's the best left tackle projected to be available. Do you expect him to be available, or do you think the Ravens find a way to keep him in Baltimore?
So the day that the Ravens brass said, hey, we're confident, we're close, I talked to someone who's actually in the division. They go, of course they did, because in this light, from a PR standpoint, if they don't reach a deal, it sounds to fans like the team did their part and Ronnie Stanley just wanted more, it took too much money. So of course they're going to say that. Now, it is important to get them on the record. I'm not saying all of this is useless for all the press conferences behind us, but
there's a game to it.
Right. And so I don't know if Phil Spring available. I would expect yes, because not only do the Ravens have very little cap space, they have very few players under contract. So they have a lot of holes to fill in a way that's less obvious than the Patriots. To the Patriots, and what we've heard from them at the press conferences, Vrabel said this, Wolf did too. They're talking about a plan A. If plan A doesn't work out, we need a plan B, plan C, and D. I fully expect Ronnie Stanley to be their plan A. But I understand that they are comfortable with multiple tackles on the market. So when they talk about we need to pivot, I think that's a prime position, an example of, okay, if it isn't happening with Stanley, Eric Jackson, Dan Moore, any of these guys that they might be trying to sign because they need tackles and everybody knows it.
Do you think they are, because now there's the other side of it, if Stanley does get to free agency, would he sign with the Patriots? If they are interested and they do put the money up, or would he consider them, do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would think so because, look, they'll be able to give him a lot of money. We all know this from the cap space standpoint. They can also say, we'll give you high guarantees as a result of not only the cap space this year, but the cost control rookie contract for Drake May, and the fact that, look, if you want to hit free agency again in 33, it's fine by us. It kind of works with our timeline. And maybe they draft a mid-round guy to develop behind him. So they can make the offer. I don't know his personal priorities, but I certainly wouldn't rule him out at this stage as they continue to gather more intel about these guys.
Do you think, so we've talked a lot about just throughout the week, everybody, the tackles for the Patriots, right? The receivers or lack thereof in free agency, even edge rushers, guys like Josh Sweat, defensive lineman Milton Williams. There are, I would say actually, the majority of the top tier free agents projected this year with like T. Higgins going back to Baltimore and things like that are guys that don't play these positions. We're talking about for the Patriots, a guy like Javon Holland from Miami. Do you think there's a chance that they make a splash? I've called them the big three needs, right? Pass rusher, receiver, tackle. Do you think there's a chance that they get aggressive and make a splash in free agency outside of the big three needs, just in terms of this guy's talented, let's add the talent?
I don't think so right now. I don't think they're ruling it out, but they look and say, hey, our biggest problems last year were the same problems you had the year before. Right? And especially in terms of the offensive line. So if we don't address that, we kind of know what 2025 is going to look like. Let's not relive that. So I don't want to rule out, let's say that they do splurge on like a tight end. Austin Hooper's out there. Or Javon Holland just kind of meets their kind of number because you have very similar safeties back there in Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers. And, reasons to go, maybe they're not around past next year. So why not get a Javon Holland? So they have the money, but I think when the free agency opens, their first calls will go to the players we expect, the positions we expect. If anything surprises us after, it's because their plan B kind of had a plan B, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's something that they go, well, this is an opportunity, we should seize on it.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think there's a position that we're not talking enough about that maybe they're more worried about internally?
Yeah, I don't know if it's worried, but I'm looking
or focused on, I guess would be a better word.
I'm looking at corner, and it's not because this is something no one's discussed, because we're talking Travis Hunter, and he can play both ways. Which way would you prefer he major in versus minor? But my expectation is they're going to look at this in the mid-rounds of the draft. And in the meantime, you'd still like a veteran out there because, again, this is going to be a different defense. And guys like Jonathan Jones, who they do want to bring back, are not going to start in there. And even Marcus Jones might be someone that doesn't fit what Vrabel wants to do. So I think they're looking for bigger players there. Christian Gonzalez is obviously safe. But as you continue to kind of, adjust to the new prototypes and what Vrabel wants, corner is something I think they're going to invest in, linebacker as well.
I guess it's not really like about this week, but just having talked to people, I'm curious. I haven't asked anybody yet this week, and I meant to. What's the buzz about Drake May around the league? What are you hearing about Drake May?
Top 5. He's a stud. They think that's the ceiling.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty universal from people that I've spoken to, just what they think. Like, he's a stud, and I put it this way during the season. We probably even talked about it. It's like if he was playing at almost a league average level as a 22-year-old kid, with the worst pass protecting offensive line in the league and arguably the worst receiving core, what's he going to do when you just kind of bring everyone to level around him? Then that's a guy who can kind of drive winning. So, yeah, they love what they see. They love what they have. And some people, you'll find this in the Boston Herald later this week when we dump all of our intel, said it's kind of a scary duo. People in the AFC are like, Vrabel, May, they're cooking now. It's just going to be a matter of time.
So when it comes to supporting Drake May, which is something Mike Vrabel talked about, how much is there aligned there, I guess, in your mind? Because I've gone back and forth on this. People think supporting Drake May, okay, get him a left tackle, right, to protect him. Get him a wide receiver, a top flight pass catcher, which makes sense. They should totally do that. But do you think they consider a level of, well, let's make sure we don't have a ton of short fields because of the defense. Let's see if we can get him some turnovers and create some short fields on offense. Let's make sure he's not constantly chasing deficits. Do you think they view, and should they view, investing in the defense as investing in Drake May as much as adding a receiver or a tackle?
Yeah, I think so. I think, though, the further you physically get away from Drake May, taking a center from an offensive lineman, the left tackle to his left, the receivers out there, and then you're talking about defense, it gets less involved about him because, you need to support him, but the defense needs to just do its job independent of that. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work out, as we saw in 2023. 3 losses when you hold the opponent to 10 points or less, and the offense just kind of blew it. But we also knew simultaneously the Patriots hadn't supported Mac Jones. And how was that? Right. Didn't give many receivers. The offensive line was trash. And so had they done those things, the things closer to him, more directly affecting him, defense would be like, we did our job, and it worked out, as opposed to I guess we got to hold them to 0, as multiple players told me that season. So it isn't to bring up old wounds. It's just to say that when we talk about supporting, I think it pretty much is encapsulated in protection and pass catchers.
What was your biggest conception about this draft class coming into the week that's changed?
Yeah, I think there are positions and we even heard this from Eliot, running back and tight end are areas that I'm open a little bit more now for the Patriots, kind of maybe not second round, but third, or maybe they kind of move up if someone drops that are deeper there. I do think people like the corners in the middle of the class, like I was talking about. That's why I think the Patriots are going to be in there versus at the top. And it's also got everyone's talked about the edge class, but the athletes are really there. So it's kind of reinforced some things, but also from a Patriots perspective, running back or tight end might be something that they're looking at in the middle rounds there, depending on who's available.
I'll say this about running back, and you talk about supporting Drake May. I just got a chance to talk to Amari in Hampton, who was his running back at UNC. Kind of lit up when I talked about Drake May. Said that May had him under his wing, and that's a pairing I know a lot of fans would like to see. Do you think there's a chance Travis Hunter gets to 4 for the Patriots? If so, would they pick him, or are they going to stick with that trenches mentality?
I'd be shocked if Travis Hunter is there just based on conversations I've had, which is not a full survey of the league, but like the guy's a literal generational player for college. Like you could have a conversation of where he is in the pantheon of all-time college football players. And as we know, not all of them translate. But let's say he does fall to 4. I think that would necessitate not only Cam Ward going, but Shedeur Sanders in the top 3.
Yep.
I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be in the top 3 from anything that I've heard this week, whether that's from people at podiums behind us or from private conversations. So that makes it, a lower percentage proposition.
Yep.
The second thing I would say is, if Travis Hunter is there at 4, I think the Patriots' phones are going to light up. And if you're them, you go, okay, we know whomever's coming up, let's say Vegas, it's 6. Everyone's favorite trade partner in mock drafts, including my own for the Patriots.
It makes all the sense in the world.
They want to come up and get Travis Hunter. Why wouldn't you? Okay, we know we're going back to 6. The guy at 4 is going to be someone that we are not going to take. And still at 6, we would get Mason Graham or Will Campbell and add a 3rd-round pick, because in the modern trade value charts, that's the cost of doing it. You might say, that's not worth it, just trade Travis Hunter. I'd be like, you might be right. But for them, I think it increases the likelihood that they do trade back if this generational prospect is available and doesn't, for now, match exactly their needs, even though we know they're very high on him as a receiver.
Right. I was going to say, do you think, and we use the trade chart obviously as a tool, but a lot of times when there's quarterback trades, for instance, right, there's a quarterback tax where you're going to have to overpay even more to move up. Could Travis Hunter carry maybe a quarterback tax for a team moving up for him just because of how rare he is as a player?
Yeah, for sure. And it's also just, basic supply and demand, right? Like if everyone's demanding to ask and they're willing and you get to sit as a seller in kind of a seller's market and kind of dictate terms, sure, probably more than a 3rd-round pick, because, those trade value charts very valuable to us, but also are based on an aggregate of all of these different deals. And some years, to your point, it's a quarterback, and the value's not going to match up. It's going to be a lot more. So I do think he could command a little bit more than that. But again, they're having these conversations now. If Travis Hunter is there, do we want to take him? What would it take to get us off of this? Because then when those conversations happen, they know, hey, this is what we want. Right. Take it or leave it.
They're doing the mock drafts in the building too. That's
they
right.
are.
Just like
Everyone does.
Everybody is doing it. You mentioned Graham or Campbell at 6 potentially being an option. Campbell's arm measurements have been discussed at length. Do you have any thoughts there? And also Mason Graham weighing in at 296. Was listed at 323 by Michigan, comes in at 296. Does that change your impression of him at all as a prospect? Because now he's not that, to me, he's up that high because it's the elite size athleticism combo. Mm-hmm. He's still an elite athlete, but you're not getting an elite athlete at that nose tackle size. Yeah, but I think also for the Patriots now under Mike Vrabel, which is going to be the single gap, more attacking style, they probably prefer him to be a little bit under 300. Like as long as, and obviously we're here for the combine for measurements, a lot more intel. What can you do with those tools, though? Like, we know Mason Graham is an exceptionally powerful player, impactful 3-down player. If he could still do that at 296 as opposed to 323 or whatever he was, that's fine by me. Honestly, and sometimes guys extend their careers because they lose a little bit of weight, and it depends on the position. So I'm not as worried about that. And neither am I, honestly, about the arm length thing. Like, my default half-joking line has been, the T-Rex used to dominate the animal kingdom with the shortest arms of any one in the animal kingdom. And when you look at Mike Vrabel's history, drafting Peter Skoronski, who we know kicked inside the guard to Tennessee, but they took him as a tackle. He got hurt, and that really dogged the early part of his career. Comments he said, hey, if you got short arms, as long as you're better in certain areas, footwork, punching, contact, like you can overcome that. And the way that I would think of this in the simplest way to dismount is to say, okay, it used to be quarterbacks had to be 6'2" or taller. Right. Drew Brees came around. Russell Wilson came around. These are exceptional outliers that should not be counted on as the prototype, but they had other traits that were allowed them to overcome that lack of height and to be exceptional. I think the Patriots say, Will Campbell's got enough of that we're not worried just about the arm length. And I would even say at tackle, Rashawn Slater, right? The number used to be over 33, not at, and then he came in at, and there were questions, and I'd say that pick worked out pretty well for the Chargers, so you hope that, I wouldn't say anybody at Campbell's arm length can play tackle, but he's talented enough to do it. As we wrap it up here, Andrew, what has been your favorite non-Patriots part of the Combine? Ooh, I mean... This can be football or non-football. I was just going to say, the gossip, and it's not because this is something that I, spend any time. I mean, obviously, as you're a reporter, you want to open your ears and ask questions and all those different things. But it just makes me laugh sometimes when we're out and you're trying to talk to different agents and meet different people, which, small sidebar, I'm meeting a UConn player, ex-UConn player, is a guy who went to the school, is now an agent. It was great to catch up and talk about stuff. But everyone's doing the same thing. I think there's a larger impression that the reporters go, oh, they get to stay up late and they're drinking beers and talking to so-and-so. Coaches, executives, GMs, scouts, everyone's doing it. And so it's just one big adult high school cafeteria here for a whole week.
in the center of the city, and you kind of never know who you're going to run into. So it's a whole experience. I am very happy that I'll be going home in 24 hours. And also, you talk about arm length. Have you told the story about the Eagles person who heard you talking during a radio hit coming off the plane?
I don't remember if I told that on anywhere, but yeah, I got
Real
off.
quick, you got to
So
share.
Felger and Maz. So the funnier part was, I guess they were reading my combine preview on the air while I was flying in, and I didn't have service on the plane. The Wi-Fi wasn't working, so I land and I have these texts from Jimmy Stewart and Maz, like, "Have you landed yet?" So I'm like, "Oh no, I missed it." So I text them. I'm like, "Yeah, like, let me get off the plane. I can do the hit." But it was, I think I landed at like 5 o'clock, so it's coming up to the end of the show. So I go down, I get my bag at baggage claim, and I go stand right outside of baggage claim, and we saw Mike McDonald walking through the airport, Harbaugh walking through the airport. It's like, I'm starting to get this. It's my first combine, my first taste of like, oh, the NFL is here. Like, you turn a corner, you don't know who you're going to see. And so I'm outside baggage claim on the phone with Felger and Maz talking about Will Campbell's arm length, and I'm doing the usual spiel like, well, you know, most teams want 33 inches, and I don't know who it was. Maybe it was a fan, I don't know, but somebody in Eagles gear who looked kind of official walks by and just kind of had like a, oh boy, here we go, look on their face while I'm on the phone hearing me talking about that. So that would be, I think that qualifies as a welcome to the combine moment.
And
that and the St. Elmo shrimp hitting.
If they were official, no one should know better about offensive line play than the
That
Eagles.
is true.
So if it wasn't what I said, take the eye roll from the Eagles via Barth and be like, forget it. If you can play, you can play. And yeah, I'm excited. It's always good just to kind of be here, and it's hard to fully capture. And I was super curious when you came on my show earlier this week, just to be like, all right, what's your impression? Because it takes a while to adjust in the rhythms and the routines. But yeah, it's rare you have thousands and thousands of people all in the same business, all in one place, all gossiping, trying to figure out, do their own business, and everyone knows how it goes. But
so I compared it to, like, I went to, when I was in college and then after college, I went to the winter meetings a few times for baseball, and it's very similar to that, kind of that high school thing, and also that, like, you're at the center of the universe of what you're doing sort of thing, right? I was there the year Dansby Swanson got traded for Shelby Miller. I think it was Shelby Miller, whoever it was, and like that was a big story. Everywhere you went, and instead of being around the city, the one difference was it was at like this massive resort hotel. So everybody was like in this one hotel.
So those are the owners' meetings. That's for us coming up next month. That's exactly what it is.
Everywhere you went was like, what did you think of this move? What did you think of that? And it was like really cool to just be so immersed in it. And I remember thinking that at the time, like, this is great. And it's that same feeling. And I guess maybe when the Super Bowl in 18 was kind of similar, but anywhere you go, the Super Bowl is the big story. Here, just like seeing all the reports come out, it's like, oh yeah, I heard about that. Oh yeah, I saw that, blah, blah. Seeing live shots. Oh, I walked by there, that kind of thing. It's kind of cool to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's a unique event. You're always exhausted coming back.
Yes, that is true.
I don't try to like hammer home the intrigue of fans. Like the show I'm going to do with Doug soon here, actually today, is not only just all the intel that we've gathered and talking to a lot of different people, including Patriots people, but to say also like what it was like. And so if you want to know, there it is. Obviously, I think you should be telling all the stories that you have, because that's what we're here for. We're here to bring you as much as we can to this table, to hang out, to know what it was like, to talk with Travis Hunter and all these different guys. So, yeah, it's been a good week. I think the Patriots would agree. They feel good about their plans, and I'm excited to see it finally unfold.
All right, he is Andrew Callahan, the Boston Herald, Pat's Interference Podcast. You have Saturday morning, you're going to drop the big intel?
Yes, that'll be online, and then for the old folks, who I don't know how you're watching this podcast if you are over a certain age, it will be in the Sunday paper. So
there you go.
That'll be one I actually pick up for myself, because, you know, when you work in a newspaper, you don't get them for free. So, but yeah, we got a lot of good stuff coming up, and a hat tip to everyone who's been around here today, because we had a giant Patriots contingency, and it's not just about the Boston Herald or the Sports Hub, Mass Live had a really good piece this morning. So we feel like when we're providing info that otherwise people couldn't get, we're all doing our jobs, and everybody wins.
And we'll have more on 985thesportshub.com and the Sports Hub YouTube channel as well. Until the next one, for Andrew Callahan, I'm Alex Barth. Thanks for watching.